Hello, guys. I'm here again with the micro helicopters just because they're the best. And honestly, the way I see things now, it's pretty tough. And I kind of, it's discouraging to hear that they want the whole Sky ID on your bigger helicopters and anything that weighs over 250 grams. It sucks because you know what? It's more work to get up in the air now. And it's okay to be compliant. And I encourage people to do it because it gives everyone else um, I guess a sense of safety. Anyone who doesn't fly, for that matter, I guess. And I'm sure it'll probably cause a good impact on their lives. How, I don't know. I don't really know, and it doesn't really matter because um, maybe people ruined it for themselves. I mean, if you guys were crashing into people's stuff or invading people's property or whatnot, and being annoying and a nuisance, then I guess I don't know. We got what we deserved. But for the most part, most of us fly at designated fields, and honestly, it, the reason I'm talking about micro helicopters is because of that reason. You can still fly these in your backyard and not have to worry about anyone telling you anything or complying with any of these regulations. You can fly these indoors. Well, for these, they're a little too big for indoors, but I will be flying my Infusion 180 because I don't care. I mean, I'm gonna fly it indoors. I know most of you guys won't agree, but I'm flying it. I'm the only one here right now, and currently under construction too. I'm making some home modifications and remodels and whatever, all that good stuff, which I've been doing myself. So it's kind of getting pretty. Um, it's taking up a lot of my time. It's getting really hectic, and I'll get back on board with these videos and I'll, as soon as I can. But yeah, so I've had the OMPM2 before. I've gotten rid of it. Uh, I have the goosky rs2. I have the Blade Infusion 180, which is on the ground right now, ready to fly. The Blade 150, Fusion 180. I have every Blade micro helicopter except those 4 channel, which I have no interest in. But I do have every micro 6 channel they have, from the smallest to the biggest. And with that said, the 700's out, so that's nice to see. Mine's on the way. And just really quick, Goosky S2. It's a badass helicopter. I recommend it. Honestly, I have no complaints on this one. I had complaints on the M2. This is a version 2 of it. They have the Evo version now. I'm sure they sport the same flybarless unit. I don't know how much of a difference that may be. But I did order the main head that's been updated for the OMP M2 on the Evo, which is using it's adopting the mixing arms instead of the DFC head, which honestly I prefer because if when you crash, and when I've crashed at least, the DFC head never survives, especially being out of aluminum. The blade grips tend to bend, and honestly everything's just bad. And after that, nothing really aligns. You need to have adjustable links in order to get it to fly right and get your tracking right. But then again, I adjusting the links every time after a crash sucks. Which is why I do like the blade plastic parts, because for the most part of I find that a link may pop off, and that's good. I mean, I can replace links, lose them all day. I don't care. I can go and replace a blade grip. I mean, because it broke. I mean, I know I need to replace it. It's a visual thing. For the most part, I've never had a cracked blade grip. It normally just breaks, and then I just put a new one on, and my linkages may bend, I guess, on the DFC one for the Fusion 180 Smart, but you just bend it back straight. It normally doesn't really bend much, and they don't really crack too easy, and it's flying the way it was. You don't have to do any adjustments on the links or anything. You just put it back together, and you're back up in the air. Everything's tracking straight. Replace your main shaft and feathering shaft, and you're good. But again, I mean, that's a deal breaker for a lot of people. I mean, having a kit come with you know, all aluminum CNC machine, high end materials versus molded plastic. I mean, and then for the pricing, yeah, I think Blade could have reduced their prices a little bit more in comparison to competition. But these are pretty up there now. I mean, they're pretty high up in price. But yeah, I get it. I mean, the parts on this are pretty cheap compared to paying for plastic. Um, well, anyways, my point is, DFC heads are nice, but they don't. I feel like the rotation of the links can't keep up with any swashblade drag on the upper rotational part on the hat on the swashblade. Just because eventually, with after loading the swashblade and hard maneuvers or higher RPM, any drag will cause those links to kind of drag rearwards, and it'll may affect your phasing. And I mean, to me, it's less efficient unless you have a really rigid design. But in a crash, it sucks. It's not the best. Um, it doesn't really handle crashes very well. And like for this, I picked this one up, the Align 300X. I love this thing because it's a 300 size, more like a 200 size helicopter. I mean, it's almost as big as the goosky S2. It's just a little bigger, a little taller. And honestly, look at the beefy head on the S2 in comparison to the Align. Yeah. So with that said, I mean this head it doesn't really handle crashes very much. I mean when I crashed this helicopter, the blade grips they pretty much always survive, but that DFC arm breaks, it snaps at the turnbuckle, and you have to order those, and sometimes they're not in stock, and that's the thing that it mainly comes down to for me too. Parts. How am I supposed to get parts? I mean, sometimes parts aren't available, and if they're coming from China or wherever they're coming from, out of overseas, I mean these parts take forever to get to the states. That's why I choose Blade. It's in house, and they have parts all the time, and when they don't have parts, they give you a date of when they'll be back available. It'll say next June or next soon at whatever. It says a date on there for the part restocking time. And yeah, I mean, anytime I do have the ability to get my hands on some, I get a few, and I'm flying for days, and that keeps me in the air. So I've never had downtime with my Blade helicopters at all for that by that by any means. I mean, I've always had them in the air. When the parts are in stock, I buy a bunch. Like I buy $100 worth of whatever breaks, and I normally tend to replace. Everything else, I might keep two of each in my drawer or something, my parts drawer. Um, and that keeps me flying. So if I'm out, by the time I'm out, they're already back in stock and I'm flying again. So the hobby is pricey. Keep that in mind. Just keep parts, and then you'll be fine. But again, with these helicopters, I mean, the only one that I found is really good to have around is the OMPM2, because I mean, if you go to Buddy RC, they give you parts for such a cheap price. I think the pricing is the same as a goosky, but they're located in Ohio, and parts get to you within like 3 days. Super cheap. You get a lot of it. They're high end parts, and you can fly all day, crash all day. And a lot of these parts, I'll say one thing, the main shaft on the goosky and the M2 are like super hardened steel. I don't know what they're using, but it's really good steel. The feathering shaft, they don't really bend that easy, comparing them to the Blade ones. They are the same size shafts in diameter. I found that the main head on the goosky and the OMPM2 fit on the. You can slap it right into the what do you call it? The Fusion 180 or the Infusion 180, which fits better on the Infusion 180, just because the dimensions are more correct, more equal. The swashplate on these helicopters are much beefier. I have not tried to, put a swash plate on this one, but you do need to swap over the balls, because these ballings are a little larger in diameter in comparison to the Blade ones, but they do, the thread and the the size is the same as the Infusion 180 and the in the Infusion 180. It's so confusing with these names, but yeah, I mean it works. But at that point, you gotta ask yourself, why are you putting? I mean, it's part of the hobby. You can do whatever you want, but to me, that's kind of like a pet peeve. Like, why am I, kind of crossing these two brands together? I mean, if that's the case, well, get the other guy. I mean, yes and no. I mean, I like the Fusion 180 so much. I just kind of wish it had this main head and a beefy one like this. That'd be really nice. Um, and sometimes you can do things like this too to save you money. Just buy one of only a part, that's the same all around and just order those parts. But then let's try to support everybody. So, I mean, to me, I just keep them the way they should be. Yeah, I'll build maybe one out of all of them. Like, for example, I'm going to get one of my Infusion 180s, and I'm gonna put this main head, and I'm gonna do the same thing to the line 700X. I think that main head, I really don't like it much. I just think that they could have done so much better with that main head. But anyways, I was gonna fly my Infusion 180 real quick, and that was a quick little talk on the micros. Um, yeah, I mean, I think for now, just to kind of put it out there, stick to micros for now. They're pretty good now. The 300X is badass. It's a belted, micro helicopter. It's right in the middle. And the S2 by goosky is probably the nicest looking one in my opinion, and it performs so good. Anyone who doesn't like that model, I don't know what they look in a helicopter. It's probably one of the best ones out there. But like I said, parts. That's what it comes down to. And I've had downtime on the goosky helicopters because I can't get my hands on parts sometimes. They're doing a much better job keeping them in stock now because they're so popular. And that, I mean, I give it to them. They came up with such a good platform that it's gonna be stocked now. So hey, maybe this will be a better option. But I like this one because all the parts are coming from Ohio, and I it's a really nice helicopter, honestly. And I still like that they offered this frame with the removable battery trays. I like that better. It's just more secure, in my opinion. And I can fit a variety of different battery packs in dimensions and sizes because with this new friction fit, it's like everything has a trade off. This friction fit battery tray, I mean, you have to get the perfect size battery to fit in there. I wish they would come up with a removable tray. That way I can put any battery I have. Um, but yeah, so then you got the the Fusion 120. This is my favorite micro belted helicopter. I don't think anything else competes with this one. It flies really good, and yeah, I mean, I have no complaints on this one either. After you put the carbon fiber blades, it really changes the flight characteristics a lot. And here's just another Fusion 180. I have like 5 of these because I like it so much. But yeah, so this is a very good helicopter for anyone wanting to get one. I would recommend the Fusion 180 a lot just because it's really a good beginner, advanced. If you're not a professional, I say go for the Fusion 180. It flies really nice, honestly. Slow down the roll rates and pitch rates, and it'll fly just like the 150. So, and it's belted, so it has a better tail control, and it gets you more familiar with the bigger helicopters. Why? Because it's all mechanical. You learn how to work on these, so it gives you a pretty good platform to learn on when you're moving your way up to work on something bigger like a Fusion 360 or like my also just built TB40, a nice helicopter too. It's pretty much the TB70 shrunken down, and I really like this one. It's gonna be nice, and it's got a really beefy main shaft, 10mm main shaft, I believe. And yeah, I mean, it's a cool one. I like how the battery tray adopts the lower, tray like a traditional 700, and it gives you the full runaround. I mean, if you get the TB40 and you can work on this, I mean, just get yourself a TB70 or 60. I mean, you're already there. I mean, if you put this together, you pretty much put a TB70 or 60 together. It's the same thing. Like every part for part's the same. So yeah, I mean that's the only thing. I'm just if you want to learn how to build them and you want to start small, get the Fusion 180. You get the full runaround. I mean, they got a belted tail. It gets mechanical. You get it. You learn how to set these things up all around. No other micro helicopter is going to teach you how to set up a bigger helicopter other than the Fusion 180. Or you can get the Align 300X. This is another option, but you're compromising size and weight. The Fusion 180 is just below 250 grams. So it's compliant. You can fly anywhere, no one can tell you anything. The Fusion 300, I mean the Align 300X, well, it weighs well over 250 grams, probably double. And it's a bigger helicopter, it's more intimidating, and honestly, it's not gonna crash as good as a 180. And I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just that's the compromise is size now. It's no longer a micro. It is a micro, but it's not a true micro. It's in between a 450 and a 200 size helicopter. So just kind of make your, just I don't know. I mean, whatever it is that you want. I mean, if you have no limited space, I'd rather go with something that's this size and smaller. This is actually smaller than the goosky and all these helicopters. If you get the Blade 150, well, it's a good beginner helicopter, yes. Less parts to deal with. You can upgrade this. They have rail blades, everything you can get for this. I have a Fusion 180 frame on this one, though. But you don't get the mechanical learning curve out of this. I mean, you'll learn how to build and replace parts on this, but you won't understand the tail setup on the helicopter. On the helicopter side when you're building kits, where that's gonna be the one thing you won't benefit from having something like this. But it's a good micro. It's once you've had experience, I feel like this is gonna just teach you how to fly and keep you in the air more for cheaper. And like I said, you got here's OMP. It's a cool one, but like I said, it's the same thing. You have a belt, you have a direct drive, a motor and tail motor, main and tail. So you don't really get that learning curve, and you don't, you just never jump into it that way. I mean, I wouldn't recommend getting a 450 size as your first helicopter and learning how to mess with that, because if you tip it over and on takeoff, you're gonna damage some parts. If you tip the Fusion 180 over, well, then you'll be okay for the most part. But yeah, let me fly the Fusion 180 in Fusion 180 so you guys can see how controllable it is, and yeah. Let's see. I finally set that up. Here's a quick hover. I fly inside because honestly I'm alone and I'm only harming myself, so no one else do this. I don't recommend it. With a smaller helicopter, of course, but not with this size. I mean, a lot can go wrong real quick. But this one is flyable. It's more enjoyable indoors. It's slower. It moves looser. It's not too quick off the center. And it stabilizes pretty quick if you're flying in stability mode. And you got a good tail authority on this one. A responsive tail, so mean, this is a good helicopter. I think that the blade ones are fun because you can honestly upgrade them, and that's one of the funnest parts. It's working on them and upgrading them as you go, and it kind of just teaches you how to work on these helicopters, honestly. So, thanks for watching, though. All right, guys. See you later.